A blank slate. Who doesn't love a blank slate when it comes to model railways? Hey guys, welcome back to Proper Chuffed. My name's Hilton and I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. That is half the fun of this, isn't it? I'm super excited to introduce you guys to my brand new 00 gauge layout. In the 2 months it's been since I moved into our new house, I've not been resting on my laurels. I've already got a fully operational layout up and running. So let's not faff around, I'll take you straight there. So welcome my friends to Bray, my new studio-sized West Highland depot. Bray is intended to be a rather small, scenic, end-to-end layout, and it will be the final fictitious project that I embark on for quite some time. Now, I've always wanted to build a depot of some sort, and naturally, I would of course gravitate towards the Highlands. I've thought deeply about building something like Mallaig or the Kyle of Lochalsh, but decided to merge a couple of these inspirations into one last fictitious project. Firstly, why am I building a depot? Well, to be honest with you, over the past couple years, I've built up quite a sizable fleet of locomotives, numerous large logo class 37s, and quite a few Scottish steam engines. And with the myriad of stuff coming from manufacturers like Rapido, Sonic Models, Scale, and Bachmann in the near future, I thought it would be good to have a sort of display type layout where I could really show off these locomotives in their homes. So it came to my mind to build something a little bit smaller within the studio space, because this is not actually the railway room, believe it or not. There is a bigger plan afoot here. But for now, let's focus on Bray. Previously, I've built layouts that have been a lot more, let's say, scenic, a lot more flora and fauna, and don't get me wrong, absolutely love that. It's my favorite type of modeling, but I thought it would be interesting to challenge myself to something a little bit more technical and industrial in many ways. That's not to say that this is going to be an industrial layout. It's of course set on the West Highlands, so there has to be a degree of scenery too. But with the tractive power of 37s and dirty soot of steam locomotives, I thought it would be an interesting challenge to try something a little bit different. The other key point of Bray is that it's an end-to-end layout. This is not historically the way I like to build layouts, as I do like trains running. However, I thought I'd challenge myself to see what I can get going in terms of operations, just to see whether that's something I enjoyed. With Dunromin, it was constant running. However, with Bray, my intention is to challenge myself personally as a modeler from an operational standpoint. So first things first, and here's the kicker. Bray is intended to be a dual era layout. On one end, we have 1980s large logo diesel traction with a little bit of industry mixed in. And on the other side of things, we have the last bastion of Scottish steam. The intention with this dichotomy really is to show off two very different periods of time, but also to create a platform on which I can showcase all of the really exciting upcoming projects, as well as being able to test locomotives, run them up and down, do all of my programming, and give myself a little bit of a sandbox play area while I work on a much larger project. Bray has been designed very, very intentionally. Unlike previous layouts, Bray is one that I don't really plan to get rid of anytime soon. Not only has it been designed specifically for this space in the new studio, but it's also been designed to take to exhibitions if possible. 3 large 10mm baseboards measuring a total of 3.2 by 1.8 meters give us Bray's footprint. It's not a big layout, but that was very much the point of the whole thing. You see, for the first time since I started this YouTube and model railway journey, I actually have a little bit of floor space. This is it right here. I've intentionally built Bray to be the least intrusive layout in this space. And why? Because there is so much floor space. I need building space. Building space for a much larger project. A project far, far bigger than this room. But that's a story for another time, so let's get back to the layout. As previously mentioned, this new layout is an end-to-end railway set across 2 distinct periods. 1950s steam and 1980s large logo diesel. I've always loved both eras for very different reasons. The 50s gives me that last great breath of Highland steam. Soot, stone buildings, hand-worked yards, and purposeful rural railways. While the 1980s, on the other hand, is peak tractor territory. Weathered class 37s, oil-stained depots, and proper diesel grit. At its heart, this layout is about giving my locomotives a proper home. Over the years, I've built up a fleet that I'm genuinely proud of, but I've realized that models deserve more than a shelf. They need somewhere to arrive, to depart, to shunt, to sit in a siding, be serviced and worked on properly. The diesel end of the layout is centered around a small depot nestled somewhere along the West Highland line. It's not meant to be a big traction maintenance depot or anything grand like Eastfield. Instead, it's a much smaller, more intentional place, the kind of facility that exists because the railway needed a practical solution in a remote era. The inspiration for the sections comes from places like the sidings at Arrochar and Tarbet, where operational bits of railway infrastructure quietly sat alongside the main line, doing important work without much fanfare. In my interpretation, the depot sits beside a timber yard, which adds another layer of operational interest for that period. Timber traffic was an important part of Highland rail freight, so having a yard nearby creates a reason for locomotives to be there, bringing in wagons, shunting loads, preparing trains for the long journeys south. It gives the diesel end a working, industrial feel without losing that sense of being surrounded by wild Highland landscape. As part of the studio-based nature of this layout, I've put down two programming tracks which I can easily access. One for 16.5mm and the other for 12mm, because of course the South African stuff is coming eventually. In contrast, the steam end of the layout leans much more into atmosphere and coastal influence. This area is inspired by places like Mallaig and the Kyle of Lochalsh, kind of locations where the railway feels almost inseparable from the sea. Everything here is imagined as being salt-kissed and weathered by the elements. Stonework carries that faded coastal patina. Timber has been battered by decades of Atlantic winds, and the air itself feels heavy with sea spray. Steam locomotives arriving here would have felt like they have reached the very edge of the railway world. Operationally, it's quieter and more reflective. The kind of place where a train arrives, the locomotive runs around its coaches, and for a moment, everything sort of slows down before the return journey inland. The contrast between these two areas is intentional. One end feels purposeful and industrial, tied to the diesel era and the movement of freight through the Highlands. The other feels exposed, coastal, and almost timeless, rooted in the final years of steam working remote branches. Together they create a railway that feels varied and believable. It also gives me two completely different modelling moods to work with. I think everyone who's modelled steam era at some point in their lives has wanted a turntable. And when I saw this old Fleischmann turntable pop up on Marketplace, I jumped at the opportunity. Now there are many different turntables available on the market, some at ludicrous prices, but I'm hoping, because I actually haven't tested it, that this Fleischmann turntable works perfectly, because it's German, and German things just generally work. So wish me luck with that, we'll be testing that soon. Inspired by the turntables at Fort William and Mallaig, it seemed like a great opportunity to try out a turntable on my own layout. Now I do need to do a few things to this particular one before I'd be happy and calling it a Scottish turntable, but that's an episode on its own. It adds a great amount of operational interest to this particular section. And speaking of operational interest, there are a total of 17 DCC cobalt point motors on Bray. I didn't actually intend for that initially, but now that it's all set up, I'm quite happy with it. It really does keep me on my toes. All of these point motors were bought second hand and work rather well, although some are quite noisy. I've got a few more to still install, but I'm already seeing the power of the ESU ECoS in action. This layout is really going to be quite a step forward for me in terms of technology. And this is all primarily driven by my new control system, the ESU ECoS. Some of you may remember I previously used the Roco Z21 system. Absolutely fantastic in its own right, but the ESU ECoS really was something I had my eye on from the very beginning. And frankly, now that I've had the opportunity to pick one up, I'm very happy with my decision. I'll be making a separate video on this control system, but it's absolutely fantastic and it allows me to almost entirely automate the depot. I'm really excited about this project. I've always wanted to model a depot of some kind, And the fact that we can do almost 2 different eras here is really going to be quite interesting and a nice challenge. I'd love to know what you guys think about this. It is something different, I realize, and I don't think many people would go for that sort of dichotomy of 2 different eras within the space of one layout. But bear in mind that this really is intended to be an almost photographic layout. Again, I keep thinking forward to the releases from Rapido and Bachmann and the Curascale, and I think, wow, I need somewhere to display these beautiful models that are coming and to test them out and run them up and down through points. So in my mind, this feels like a very natural and organic build for me. But I think it's going to be a hell of a lot of fun, and I hope that you join me for the journey. So that's the next project. It's not the big project. That comes a little bit later, and I'll probably be showing you something about that very soon. If you're a first-time viewer and interested in seeing where this goes, make sure that you subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. As always, I just want to thank my Westies for their ongoing support. And I can assure you that all of your valuable contributions go into making this channel a better place. For example, this new studio. Couldn't have done it without you guys, so thank you so very much. That's all I have this week. Thank you so much for watching. I really, really do appreciate it. And until I see you next time, keep your engines fired and of course, stay on track. All the best.